Supreme Commander Zixtal, who had been deep in conversation with Mr. Patterson about lawn maintenance techniques, watched in fascination as Betty navigated the complex social dynamics with ease. She somehow knew exactly how to serve each species, even those without conventional mouths or digestive systems. For the crystalline Arcturians, she created what she called a cobbler crystal garden, arranging the dessert in geometric patterns that complemented their natural forms. The hive mind received their portion in thousands of tiny servings, one for each of their component consciousness orbs. Even the energy-based Dominions, who had arrived fashionably late, were accommodated with a special arrangement that allowed them to absorb the dessert's essence through their light waves. The secret, Betty confided to an increasingly intrigued Zixtal, is in the cinnamon, and making sure everyone feels welcome, of course. The impact of the peach cobbler on interstellar relations was immediate and profound. The Arcturians and the hive mind, finding themselves sharing the same picnic table, began an actual conversation for the first time in 7 centuries. Their discussion started with compliments about the dessert and somehow evolved into negotiations for shared trading routes. You know, a segment of the hive mind observed to a particularly elegant Arcturian crystal. Perhaps we could coordinate our spacecraft movements to avoid those awkward collisions in the Carina Nebula. Indeed, the Arcturian chimed thoughtfully, its facets reflecting the setting sun. And maybe discuss that unfortunate business about the exploding moon. Nearby, Robert Williams had set up what he called a karaoke machine, introducing yet another dimension to the increasingly complex cultural exchange. The sight of Dracanian warriors attempting to sing Sweet Home Alabama, while the Luminians provided impromptu light shows, would have been unthinkable mere hours ago. Commander Vriltax, who had never before produced any sound that wasn't a battle cry or a command, found himself drawn into a duet with Mrs. Henderson. Their rendition of Don't Stop Believin' may not have been technically perfect, but it marked the first time in history that a Dracanian military officer had received a standing ovation for something other than planetary conquest. The children of First Street, who had already appointed themselves as cultural ambassadors, began teaching alien species the art of making s'mores. The Dracanians' natural ability to produce controlled plasma bursts proved surprisingly useful for achieving the perfect marshmallow roast. No, young Tommy Patterson guided a confused Dominion. You want it golden brown, not completely vaporized. As the evening progressed, Betty's peach cobbler continued to work its diplomatic magic. Species that had been mortal enemies found themselves exchanging recipes and contact information. The Arcturians shared their secrets for crystal-clear communication channels, while the hive mind offered tips on efficient group organization. Even the late arrival of the notorious quantum pirates of Antares, known throughout the galaxy for their space-time heists, couldn't disrupt the harmony. Betty simply set out another batch of cobbler and asked their leader to share their interesting stories about dimensional rifts, turning potential chaos into an impromptu storytelling session. Zixtal, observing all this from a comfortable lawn chair, realized that human diplomacy operated on levels his species had never considered. While the Dracanians had spent millennia perfecting the art of intimidation, humans had mastered something far more powerful, the ability to make anyone feel at home. You know, Robert Williams said, settling into the chair next to him, "We do this every month. Different themes each time. Next month is Taco Tuesday." The concept of regular, scheduled peaceful gatherings between species that had previously only met on battlefields was revolutionary. Zixtal found himself already making notes in his calendar, wondering if his troops could master the art of guacamole preparation. As the sun set over First Street, the impromptu karaoke performances continued, The dessert plates were cleaned, and contact information was exchanged. The fearsome reputation of multiple species was thoroughly and irreversibly undermined by their enthusiastic participation in the cha-cha slide. The universe, it seemed, was changing one slice of peach cobbler at a time. Zixtal's tactical training had never prepared him for this level of casual friendliness. "We bring greetings from the Dracanian Empire," he began formally, "conquerors of 7 galaxies, harbingers of..." 7 galaxies. That must keep you busy. Betty interrupted cheerfully. "Here, let me take that dip. Oh, is this 7-layer? Perfect. We've got chips right over by the picnic table. Come on, I'll introduce you to everyone." Before Zixtal could process what was happening, his fearsome warriors were being dispersed through the party. 2 were drawn into a conversation about local property taxes with the Hendersons. Another was being taught something called cornhole by a group of enthusiastic humans. Vril Tax, to his horror, found himself receiving grilling tips from Robert Williams. "Now the secret," Robert was saying, completely unfazed by Vril Tax's battle armor, "is to only flip the burgers once. Too many people make the mistake of constant flipping." The situation grew even more complex as other alien species began arriving. The crystalline consciousness of the Arcturian collective materialized in what appeared to be a minivan-sized vessel, bearing something they called ambrosia salad. The hive mind of Proxima Centauri showed up with cupcakes. Did everyone get an invitation? Vril Tax whispered urgently to his commander. Just the species that seemed like they could use a good burger and some neighborly company, Betty explained, somehow hearing him despite his encrypted communication channel. "Now, who wants to learn how to make s'mores?" As the afternoon progressed, something unexpected began happening to the Dracanian warriors. The combination of food, casual conversation, and what the humans called chill vibes was having an almost hypnotic effect. Even Zixtal, who had once declared war on a solar system for having an insufficiently respectful tone in their surrender message, found himself engaged in a heated debate about barbecue sauce recipes with Mr. Henderson. By sunset, the fearsome Dracanian Empire had learned several crucial things about humanity. Their potato salad was indeed a weapon, but of mass satisfaction rather than destruction. Their ability to make any gathering feel casual was perhaps their greatest strength, and most importantly, they had somehow mastered the art of conquering without a single shot fired, armed with nothing more than paper plates and a willingness to share recipes. As the sun reached its zenith over First Street, Supreme Commander Zixtal found himself facing what his military training identified as a tactical nightmare. His warriors, the elite of the Dracanian Empire, were being systematically dismantled, not by weapons, but by what the humans called party games. The objective, Robert Williams explained patiently to a group of increasingly frustrated Dracanian warriors, is to toss the bean bag through the hole. He demonstrated with a casual flick of his wrist, landing the bag perfectly through the target. Commander Vril Tax, whose targeting systems could shoot down missiles from 3 solar systems away, watched in horror as his beanbag sailed completely over the wooden board. The humans responded not with mockery, but with encouraging comments like, "Close one," and "You'll get it next time." Meanwhile, at the refreshment station, Zixtal was discovering the complex diplomatic protocols surrounding what humans called bringing a dish to pass. His 7-layer dip had been received with enthusiasm, but now he found himself engaged in an intricate dance of social obligations. "Oh, you must try Mrs. Patterson's potato salad," Betty Williams insisted, piling a generous portion onto his plate. "And Frank's famous ribs. He smokes them for 12 hours. 12 hours of preparation for a tactical engagement. Zixtal muttered to himself, making mental notes. The humans' dedication to their food-based warfare was impressive. The situation became even more complex when the Arcturian collective, their crystalline forms shimmering in the afternoon light, attempted to join a game of volleyball. Their natural ability to split into multiple fragments gave them an unfair advantage until someone suggested they form mixed teams with humans and Dracanians. Strategic cooperation with potential adversaries. High Commander Crixnor whispered in disbelief, watching as one of their most decorated warriors high-fived a human teenager after a successful serve. The hive mind of Proxima Centauri, typically known for their synchronized conquest formations, found themselves thoroughly befuddled by the concept of charids. Their attempt to act out movie by simultaneously forming into a perfect recreation of an entire cinema caused both amazement and gentle explanations about the spirit of the game. The point isn't to be perfect. Juniper Williams explained to the confused collective consciousness. It's about having fun and making people guess. The concept of fun as a tactical objective was revolutionary to species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of intimidation. As the afternoon wore on, Zixtal observed something unprecedented happening to his forces. Warriors who had led conquests of entire star systems were now eagerly participating in something called a three-legged race. Their battle synchronization protocols reproposed for this strange new challenge. The humans' method of warfare was subtle but devastatingly effective. Instead of direct confrontation, they employed weapons like small talk and shared experiences. Zixtal watched as Mrs. Henderson systematically broke down the defenses of a group of Dracanian elite guards by showing them pictures of her grandchildren. "And this is little Tommy at his first baseball game," she beamed, while hardened warriors who had witnessed the death of stars leaned in with genuine interest. The Proxima Centauri hive mind, attempting to understand human recreational activities, had divided itself into thousands of tiny orbs to participate in multiple games simultaneously. The sight of a portion of the hive mind attempting to operate a barbecue grill while another segment learned the electric slide was something no military training could have prepared them for. Supreme One, Vriltax approached with what appeared to be a paper plate of something called brownies. "I believe we may need to revise our understanding of human warfare." Zixtal nodded gravely, watching as Robert Williams taught a group of junior warriors the proper technique for roasting marshmallows. Their strategy is unprecedented. They don't defeat their enemies, they make it impossible to remain enemies. The afternoon's most stunning revelation came during what the humans called a pick-up basketball game. The sight of Dracanian warriors, Arcturian crystals, and humans all attempting to navigate the rules of casual sports diplomacy was both bizarre and somehow perfect. Traveling. Called out Mr. Patterson, causing a brief moment of panic among the alien species who thought it might be a call to interstellar movement, until the rules were carefully explained. As the day progressed, Zixtal found himself making notes for a complete overhaul of Dracanian military doctrine. The humans' ability to turn any gathering into an exercise in relationship building was far more effective than any plasma cannon or death ray. The children of First Street proved particularly adept at this form of psychological warfare. They showed no fear of the fearsome aliens, instead dragging them into games of tag and asking endless questions about space travel. One young human even convinced a group of warrior priests to help build a sandcastle in the playground area. "You've got to pack the sand really tight," the child explained seriously to beings who had previously only used their hands for operating weapons systems. "That's the secret to making it stay up." By late afternoon, The feared Dracanian Empire had learned several new concepts: the strategic importance of proper burger-flipping timing, the diplomatic complexities of pickup sports, and most surprisingly, the fact that their fearsome battle armor was actually quite suitable for pool games. It floated remarkably well. The humans had achieved what no other species had managed in millennia of galactic history. They had conquered the conquerors, armed with nothing more than hospitality and hot dogs. And somehow, Zixtal realized as he watched his honored guard learning to do the Macarena, they didn't mind being conquered at all. The arrival of Betty Williams' legendary peach cobbler marked a turning point in galactic diplomacy. As the afternoon sun began its descent, she emerged from her kitchen bearing what appeared to be a simple dessert, but what would soon prove to be the catalyst for unprecedented interstellar cooperation. "It's my grandmother's recipe," Betty announced, setting the steaming dish on the outdoor table. The aroma attracted the attention of every species present, including those that traditionally absorbed nutrients through photosynthesis. The Arcturian collective, their crystalline forms tinkling melodiously, paused their ongoing debate with the Proxima Centauri hive mind about proper volleyball rotation rules. The ancient rivalry between these species, which had caused the destruction of at least 3 solar systems, was momentarily forgotten as they observed the humans' ritual of serving dessert. "Now, who wants ice cream with their cobbler?" Betty asked, producing several gallons of vanilla ice cream. The question sparked an immediate diplomatic crisis as various alien species attempted to understand the proper protocol for accepting or declining such an offer. Supreme Commander Zixtal of the Dracanian Empire stood motionless on the bridge of his flagship, the Celestial Devastator, his 4 arms crossed in what his species considered a posture of ultimate disapproval. The holographic message floating before him was, without question, the most perplexing thing he'd encountered in 3 centuries of interstellar conquest. "Analyze this again," he commanded, his crystalline voice echoing through the command chamber. The message, printed on what appeared to be pastel cardstock with decorative borders, rotated slowly in the air. "Annual First Street Block Party and BBQ. All beings welcome. This Sunday, 2 p.m. Earth time. Bringing a dish to share is encouraged, but not required. The Williams family, 1242 First Street, Denver, Colorado." High Commander Vriltax, Zixtal's most trusted advisor, nervously adjusted his ceremonial armor. "Supreme One, our intelligence suggests this is not an isolated incident. Similar invitations have been detected across their planet. The humans appear to be socializing with every alien species that enters their solar system." Zixtal's bioluminescent markings pulsed with confusion. The Dracanians had conquered 7 galaxies through fear alone. Their mere approach usually sent civilizations into panic. Yet here were these humans, not only acknowledging their presence, but inviting them to something called a block party. "What is a BBQ?" Zixtal demanded. "According to our data banks," the ship's A responded, "it appears to be a primitive cooking ritual involving the application of open flame to various food items, often accompanied by something called potato salad." The command chamber fell silent. The Dracanians had protocols for planetary subjugation, deep space combat, and even first contact scenarios. They had nothing for potluck etiquette. "Deploy the advanced scout team," Zixtal finally ordered. "I want full surveillance of this first street before we make any moves." Hours later, the reports only deepened the mystery. First Street was, by all accounts, entirely ordinary. The Williams family consisted of Robert Williams, a local transportation engineer, his wife Betty, who ran a small bakery, and their teenage daughter Juniper, who apparently spent most of her time complaining about how boring her neighborhood was. Their threat assessment came back so low, it was almost suspicious. The most dangerous thing on the property was Betty's collection of garden gnomes, and even that was only because one of them had a slightly sharp, pointy hat. Supreme One, Vriltax ventured carefully. Perhaps this is an elaborate trap. If it is, Zixtol replied, his secondary eyes narrowing, it's the most bizarre one I've encountered in 300 years of warfare. Ready my personal transport. We're attending this block party. The descent of the Dracanian flagship over suburban Denver caused surprisingly little commotion. A few people looked up from their lawn chairs. Someone muttered show-offs under their breath, and Mrs. Henderson from 1239 First Street simply adjusted her sun hat to account for the sudden shadow. The landing ramp descended with its traditional accompaniment of swirling fog and the screech of 1,000 damned souls, a sound that had made entire civilizations surrender on the spot. A child riding past on a bicycle rang her bell in response. Zixtol led his honor guard down the ramp, their ceremonial armor gleaming in the afternoon sun. They had chosen their most intimidating battle gear, complete with skull ornaments and plasma weapons. The effect was somewhat diminished by Vriltax struggling to balance what their research indicated was an appropriate offering, something called a 7-layer dip. Oh, wonderful! You found the place. Betty Williams approached, wearing an apron decorated with cartoon hamburgers. We were worried the invitation might not make it past your security protocols. Welcome to First Street. The drinks are in the cooler, and Robert's just fired up the grill. Love the armor, by the way, very festive. The Great Grill-Off Challenge. What began as a casual suggestion from Juniper Williams quickly evolved into the most ambitious culinary competition the galaxy had ever witnessed. Why don't we have a cooking contest? She had proposed, innocently unaware that she was about to initiate an event that would reshape interstellar relations. A demonstration of culinary prowess. Supreme Commander Zixtol's bioluminescent markings pulsed with interest. The Dracanian Empire accepts this challenge. Within minutes, First Street transformed into an interplanetary cooking arena. Robert Williams, appointed head judge by universal acclaim, mostly because it was his grill, began organizing the competitors into teams. The resulting partnerships defied all known laws of galactic politics. The Dracanians, paired with the Hendersons, began applying their plasma technology to perfect the art of searing steaks. Commander Vriltax discovered that his species' ability to precisely control temperature made him an unexpectedly gifted sous chef. A fraction of a degree can make all the difference between medium rare and medium, Mr. Henderson explained, while Vriltax adjusted his appendages to provide optimal heat distribution. The Arcturian Collective, partnering with the Pattersons, approached the challenge with geometric precision. Their crystalline forms refracted sunlight to create a sophisticated solar cooking system, while Mrs. Patterson contributed her secret blend of herbs and spices. The alignment must be exact. The Arcturians chimed in unison, forming a complex prismatic structure that turned sunshine into culinary artistry. Just as your timing with the marinade must be precise. Perhaps the most surprising collaboration was between the Proxima Centauri hive mind and Betty Williams. The hive mind's ability to perform thousands of tasks simultaneously proved invaluable in preparing what they called quantum fusion tacos, a dish that somehow existed in multiple flavor states until observed. The trick, Betty explained to the fascinated crowd, is to let the hive mind handle the chopping while I focus on the seasoning. They can dice 50 onions in 3 seconds, and nobody cries. The Luminians, though unable to eat in any conventional sense, appointed themselves as the lighting crew, creating spectacular atmospheric effects that made every dish look like it belonged in a gourmet magazine. Their natural ability to manipulate light waves turned each plate presentation into a work of art. Even the quantum pirates of Antares contributed, using their space-time manipulation abilities to age certain ingredients to perfection instantly. Their captain's time-warped wine reduction sauce became an immediate sensation, though several tasters reported experiencing brief temporal displacement. Young Tommy Patterson, appointed official photographer, darted between cooking stations with his phone, documenting what he declared was going to break the internet. The sight of feared alien warriors in aprons, crystal beings creating perfect geometric grill marks, and a hive mind wearing thousands of tiny chef hats was indeed something unprecedented in human social media. The competition reached its peak when the teams presented their creations to the judges. Each dish told a story of cooperation and cultural exchange. The Dracanian Henderson team's plasma-seared surf and turf combined Earth's ocean bounty with alien cooking techniques. The Arcturian Patterson collaboration produced crystal light grilled vegetables, a dish that was as much a light show as it was food. The Hive Mind and Betty Williams presented their quantum tacos with a flourish, each serving somehow incorporating flavors from across the galaxy while remaining perfectly balanced. The Luminians' contribution was a dish that could only be described as edible aurora borealis. Robert Williams, faced with the task of judging these unprecedented culinary creations, wisely declared it a tie. In the spirit of interstellar friendship, he announced, "Everyone's a winner today." This diplomatic response was met with universal approval, particularly when Betty suggested that each team share their recipes. The exchange of culinary knowledge that followed marked the beginning of what would later be known as the Great Galactic Cookbook Project. As the teams cleaned up their cooking stations, a profound realization settled over First Street. They had achieved something unprecedented, a competition where the goal wasn't to win, but to create something new together. Species that had once fought over territories were now arguing good-naturedly about grilling techniques and marinade ratios. "You know," Zixtal remarked to Robert as they packed up the grilling equipment, "in all our conquests, we never considered that the most effective way to understand a civilization might be to cook with them." "Food has a way of bringing people together," Robert replied sagely, showing the Supreme Commander the proper way to clean a grill grate, even when those people happened to be from different planets. The Great Grill-Off Challenge of First Street would later be recorded in multiple galactic histories as the moment when traditional power dynamics shifted. It proved that true influence didn't come from weapons or intimidation, but from the willingness to share a meal and learn from each other. As the stars began to twinkle over First Street, Supreme Commander Zixtal found himself sitting in a lawn chair, holding a paper plate with his fourth slice of Betty's peach cobbler, doing something he had never done in 3 centuries of conquest, making plans for a potluck. "Monthly meetings are traditional," Betty Williams explained, pulling up her digital calendar. "Though with interstellar travel times, we might need to adjust the schedule." The leaders of various galactic powers gathered around a plastic folding table decorated with a checkered tablecloth, were engaged in what might have been the most unusual peace negotiations in history. The Arcturian collective's representatives sparkled thoughtfully while examining Earth's lunar cycle. The Proxima Centauri hive mind had divided itself into committee groups, each focusing on different logistical aspects of regular interplanetary gatherings. "We could rotate hosting duties," Robert Williams suggested, sketching out a rough calendar on a paper napkin. "Give everyone a chance to showcase their local cuisine and customs." The implications of this proposal were revolutionary. Species that had previously only interacted through formal diplomatic channels or warfare were now discussing venue arrangements and dietary restrictions. The Draconian homeworld would be honored to host the third gathering. Zixtal found himself offering, already imagining how to convert one of their ceremonial war halls into a suitable party space. Though we may need advice on appropriate party decorations, our current aesthetic tends toward the intimidating. Oh, I know just the thing. Mrs. Henderson chimed in, pulling up pictures of party supply stores on her phone. String lights can make any space feel festive. And maybe we can tone down the skull motifs just a touch. The quantum pirates of Antares, traditionally excluded from diplomatic functions due to their tendency to steal time itself, were enthusiastically included in the planning. Their unique ability to create temporal pockets could ensure that no one would ever be late to a party, though there were some concerns about guests accidentally arriving before they left. As the evening wound down, something unprecedented was taking shape. A galactic alliance founded not on military might or economic power, but on shared recipes and monthly social obligations. The various species began to recognize that it was significantly harder to maintain hostile relations with someone who had taught you their grandmother's secret cookie recipe. Juniper Williams, who had been documenting the entire day on her social media, looked up from her phone with wide eyes. Guys? This is going viral across like 17 planets right now. Indeed, the images and videos of the day's events were spreading across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. The sight of feared warriors playing party games, ancient enemies sharing dessert recipes, and various species attempting to dance the Macarena was causing a sensation in every corner of known space. Perhaps, Vriltax mused, watching a group of young humans teaching some junior Draconian warriors how to make friendship bracelets. We have been approaching galactic unity from the wrong angle all these centuries. The Arcturian collective, their crystalline forms glowing softly in the evening light, had already begun composing what they called a harmony of understanding, a musical piece that incorporated the sounds of laughter, clinking glasses, and sizzling grills from the day's events. The hive mind, usually focused on expansion and assimilation, was instead working on perfecting their recipe for universal unity cookies, a treat that somehow managed to be enjoyable to every known species in the galaxy. As the various ships and vessels prepared for departure, Betty Williams made sure everyone had leftover containers, proving that some traditions truly were universal. The sight of mighty warships carrying Tupperware full of potato salad and peach cobbler marked a new era in galactic relations. Same time next month. Robert called out as the visitors began to depart. Don't forget, it's Taco Tuesday theme. The responses came in various forms: crystalline chimes, quantum vibrations, plasma pulses, and enthusiastic waves, all conveying the same message. They wouldn't miss it for all the worlds in the galaxy. Standing in his front yard, watching the departing ships create an impromptu light show in the night sky, courtesy of the Luminians' artistic exit, Robert Williams turned to his wife. "You know, dear, I think we might have just solved galactic peace." Betty smiled, already making notes for next month's menu. "Well, you know what they say. The way to universal harmony is through the stomach. Now, do you think we should get extra folding chairs? I have a feeling the crowd might be bigger next time." As the last ships disappeared into the stars, First Street settled back into its usual quiet. But it was a different kind of quiet now, one full of promise and possibilities, of future gatherings and friendships that spanned the cosmos. The universe had changed, not through war or diplomacy, but through the simple act of sharing a meal on a summer afternoon. In the end, it turned out that the most powerful force in the galaxy wasn't advanced technology or military might. It was the simple human tradition of welcoming others with open arms and full plates.